What is going on, everyone? Mitesh here, and today I want to talk about this phone right here. This is the TCL 10L, and I gotta tell you guys, I'm super excited about this phone for one major reason, and that is the fact that this phone right here is just $250, which is impressive considering all the things you're going to get in here, which I will talk about here in a little bit. But today I want to do a little unboxing of this video and compare it to its bigger brother, TCL 10 Pro, which, if you guys know, I actually did a full review of this one recently, so you guys can check that out up here if you want. But yeah, today we're just going to be doing a quick little unboxing of this and checking it out, comparing it a little bit to the bigger brother, which is significantly more expensive at $450. So just seeing what you guys are missing out with this phone and, you know, what you are actually getting with this phone. So yeah, so let's just take a look at this thing. So this is the phone right here. There's a little picture of it. And then over here we got some of the specs out here. And let's go ahead and start by comparing them with the big old brother, TCL 10 Pro. So here you can see on the TCL 10 Pro, you got a 6.47 inch full HD display. This one you have a 6.53 inch. So basically it's the same size. This one has curved edges, this one does not. And you can see right here the curved edges that they emphasize here. I am personally not a big fan of those, so not a big selling point for me, but the AMOLED part is a big selling point. I love AMOLED displays, and the 10 Pro has it. The 10L, on the other hand, of course, at $250, you are going to get an LCD display. It says it supports HDR, but over here it says it supports HDR10. So I'm not sure if this is going to be like a real HDR certified display. We'll have to see. I'll check it out in some of the apps that I have. I'll check it out on YouTube and whatever. But yeah, we'll have to see if this is actually really HDR or it's just HDR. Some other specs. So the 10 Pro has a 64 megapixel main camera. The 10L has a 48 megapixel main camera. Both of them do support forward cameras, but I gotta be honest, in my testing of the 10 Pro, I was not impressed by the camera, so I'm not really expecting a ton of great things out of this camera, but we'll just have to see if they've somehow done something a little bit better here. I'm, like I said, very skeptical, but yeah. The 10L also has a 60 megapixel front-facing camera, which I think this one has a 20 megapixel one. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Though this on the 10 Pro, the camera was awful. So once again, don't expect too much from this one, but we will see in my full camera review there. So yeah, on the 10 Pro, we have 120 gigabytes of storage, 6 gigabytes of RAM. On the 10L, I believe it's 64 gigabytes of storage, or sorry, 64 gigabytes of storage and 4 gigabytes of RAM. We'll have to see once I get that open. This one, I think this is for Super Bluetooth, which allows you to connect up to like 4 different Bluetooth devices. This one has the same feature. I just have never actually used it, so I don't know. And then finally, the last spec right there in terms of battery, the 10 Pro, 4,500 milliamp hour battery, and then the 10L, the 4,000 milliamp hour battery. So we'll see how much of a difference that makes in battery usage. The AMOLED screen should actually help it save some battery, so I'm guessing this is definitely going to do better in terms of battery life than this one will, but we'll just have to see. So alright, so let's get to unboxing this. So I got my knife right here, cut over on both the sides, tapes. Now this particular model that I have is the Canadian model. They for some reason sent me out the Canadian one, which, by the way, big shout out to TCL for sending me out both the 10 Pro and the 10L, but of course you guys know I give my own honest opinions about these things, but I do appreciate when companies send out phones so I don't have to spend all my money on trying to buy them. But here we are, we have it open. First thing we have is actually the books. Normally it's a phone, but here we are. Just gonna put that off to the side. The phone is right there underneath. Let's just get that out. And it's hard to see on here, but this is actually a really deep blue color, and I will set that aside for right now. We'll take a look at that in a second. Open this up. We've got the USB-A to USB-C cable, because this does have USB-C, thank God. No micro USB-C to be found here. And then we got a charging brick, which this looks different from the 10 Pro one, so I'm going to just check it out. Okay, so this is only a 10 amp, so this is not going to be a super fast charging one. It's only a 10 amp charger, or a 10 watt charger, so yeah, this is not going to be super fast charging, but should be fast enough. All right, so let's get to the phone. So let's go ahead and take this thing off. There we go. Oh, well, I have to slide that out. There we go. That is a very, very large phone. Now, let me just go ahead and get the 10 Pro. So this is actually the 10 Pro over here, and this is the 10L. You guys can see the quad cameras on both of them. The 10L has that fingerprint reader, which is nice. So the 10 Pro right here on the back, it's a glass back. This is definitely plastic. I can feel it. It does not feel like glass at all. But I do really like this blue color. I think it's very striking. It's a nice color. Let's go ahead and power on this thing. Now, some of the other things that they share in common. So first thing, like I said, this is an LCD display, not AMOLED. So there's that. But they are both full HD, so that's kind of nice. So on the sides, we of course have the power buttons, volume rockers on both of them. And on the left side, we have the smart key, which is available on both these phones. So that's really nice. I like the fact that I did like it on this phone. I don't love the placement of it because it's easy to trigger, but it is a really nice handy thing to have. Like I set this thing so that double tap turns on flashlight, and I use that all the time. It's a super handy little feature. So yeah, that's great that it's there. It's got a headphone jack. It's a little hard to see. It's got a headphone jack, of course, which is really great. Even the 10 Pro has a headphone jack, so that was pretty great. It's got USB-C on the bottom. And then, if I'm not mistaken, most likely this has a downward firing speaker because that is what the 10 Pro had, which is not great. I would love stereo speakers, so having a single downward firing bottom speaker is not great. I am really looking forward to the fingerprint reader here on the back. That should be faster, most likely, than the in-display fingerprint reader, which it works here, but it's a little bit slower than I would want it to be. Oh, somehow I've opened up the camera. Not what I meant to do. There we go. You guys can see. And this one has a hole punch cutout, whereas the 10 Pro, let's see if I can show it to you guys in an app where you can actually see it. You guys can right there. This is a U-shaped notch, whereas on the 10L, the cheaper phone, we actually get the hole punch, which I just think it looks a little bit better, and it's so far in the corner that it's going to be easy to avoid, whereas this one right in the middle, a little bit harder to avoid. I mean, I don't mind either of these implementations. They're very tiny, so it's really not that bad at all. And yeah, the display here looks actually really good. I wasn't sure what to expect. It is a little bit dim. I'll have to get inside and see if I can change colors and whatnot, but there's that. If you notice, this one does have a bottom chin. This is an LCD display, so it's not surprising that it has a pretty big bottom chin. One thing I noticed right away is the off-axis viewing angles are not great on this LCD display. Like, I get it off-axis and it gets super dim. I know it's a little hard to pick up on camera because of my lights and everything, but yeah, when I'm looking at it off-axis, it gets significantly dimmer. So that is something to note. Now let me just go ahead and set this up, and then I'll get back to you guys. All right, so I was in the middle of setting up this phone and just letting it set up, but I just noticed that it's got the NFC symbol up there, so that means this phone does have NFC, which is really nice to see in a phone that this price point of $250. You can still use things like Google Pay, which I actually use a decent amount, so it's really good to see here. I know some of the other competitors to this phone, like the Motorola phones, they all leave that feature out, which I don't know how much NFC costs, but it cannot cost that much, and I think it's a nice feature to have. So definitely awesome that they actually include it on here. Now let me just go ahead and copy over some data onto this phone.
1 hour later.
All right, so got the phone all set up, and you guys can see this thing is a big phone. I knew it was slightly bigger than this phone, but I didn't realize just how big it was actually going to feel in hand, especially with the curved edges here, which I really don't like the curved edges, but because of them, this phone feels very slim in the hand, and actually it's about the same thickness if you look at it head on. But this one definitely feels way slimmer than this one does because of just how this phone is, the not curved edges and everything. But yeah, overall, I still really like the flat display much better than I do curved display. I still get a ton of mistouch on this, so I much prefer this. Fingerprint reader seems to be super fast. So yeah, just the processor I think is a little bit slower, but otherwise the fingerprint reader itself is just super fast. And this is definitely my preferred placement. I'm not as big a fan of having it in the front. I think it's just easier when you whip out your phone, just putting it back there and having it unlock for you, just much faster. But there we are. All right, now, and like I said, this is an LCD display, and I think I was maybe wrong, maybe a little bit wrong about the viewing angles. Like, it seems to be fine. It does seem to get a little dimmer when you view this thing off axis. So that is something that's not concerning, but something you should know. I mean, for $250, this is still a pretty vibrant display. So I think people like that. And you can obviously go to Next Vision and turn on, let me turn off eye comfort mode so you guys can see all the different things. So you can still turn on visual enhancement, and then I'll really punch up the colors if you want that. It still has a reading mode. You can change the vivid colors to standard. Yeah, it was a little too vivid for me. There we go. That looks a little bit better to me, to at least my eyes. The phone does feel generally pretty snappy. Like, this thing does react pretty well. This does have a less RAM. Actually, let's take a look at the specs right now. Go to settings. We'll go to system. About. There we go. So you guys can see all the specs right there. So we got the Snapdragon 655, and I think that's the same processor that is in the TCL 10 Pro. Let's go ahead and open that up along with this. So yeah, so actually no. So this one has the Snapdragon 675, this one has the Snapdragon 665. Not sure how much of a difference that's gonna make. I think this one may have a slightly better GPU, but that's fine. Same resolution display. You got all the different cameras over here. So they both actually have 6 gigabytes of RAM, so that's actually pleasantly surprising. So they both have 6 gigabytes of RAM, so I imagine this one to perform relatively similar to this phone because the processor is just a little bit weaker maybe, but the RAM is about the same. So I imagine they're going to be pretty similar. Storage, like I said, does have 64 gigabytes of RAM, so I was right about that. Battery capacity is a lot less for this one, and then I haven't updated this one yet, but do expect this one to get security patches the same way as this one does. So yeah, there we are. Like this phone overall, I'm actually really impressed by what you get for $250. Like this is kind of crazy. You know, one thing I want to test out, let's test out the speakers on this thing. So let's just open up YouTube. We'll just go ahead and pick whatever the first video is. Tech linked it is.
This is my impression of you clicking on this video. Oh, tech link. Let's see what happened in the tech world today.
You guys can see it looks pretty good, and you can see the hole punch right there. House of the screen is really good.
Like it's only been 2 years.
Speakers also sound pretty loud, but just coming out the bottom right here, so that's not great. So yeah, I'm not surprised by that. You do have a camera bump on this phone, whereas you do not with this one. Like this one is completely flat. This one you do have a little bit of a bump with the camera, so that's kind of interesting that they have that. In fact, let's go ahead and open this up and okay, let's go ahead and take a little test shot. Now this is not the best lighting conditions, but we'll see. Oh, that shutter sound is terrible. So there's a picture. I'll go ahead and throw it on screen, throw it on camera so you guys can see, but it's actually not bad at all. It's got some decent details and everything. We'll have to see. Obviously, I'm going to do a full camera review of this thing and compare it with phones like the TCL 10 Pro just so you guys can see what the difference is in camera quality. But yeah, overall, so far, first impressions, really good. One thing I forgot to mention, you don't actually get a case with this. So actually you get a case with the TCL 10 Pro, but you don't get a case with that, which is kind of unusual. You normally, with cheaper phones, you usually get a case, but since this is made of plastic, I'm not really worried about rocking this thing naked. And in fact, this one actually does have some cases available from 2D. I'll try to get my hands on those to show you guys, but this one I know doesn't have a ton of cases available, so the fact that this one does, it's kind of nice. But yeah. There we are. That's a first quick look at this phone. I'm super excited about checking this out and making more videos about this because this is a really great value. Like you're getting some really great specs and a really big, large display for not much money at all. $250 is really cheap in terms of smartphones, and especially in the US, this is actually a really good value. In other places in the world, you guys have different options, but here in the US, this one's actually a really good option, at least from paper right now. And I'll be doing my full review and let you guys know whether it is or not. So with that, that's pretty much it for this video. Like this one if you liked it, subscribe if you guys loved it, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.